Why are you doing a film review, Simon? You may very well be asking, and it's a very fair point. Why am I doing a film review? Well, there's a few answers. One is that coming up with daily content is really hard. Two, because I can. And three, I saw The Suicide Squad recently, and because I am a massive comic book nerd, I wanted to talk about it. Now, first and foremost, I actually thought that the last Suicide Squad movie was okay. I mean, it was an absolute mess, and there was plenty of info out there as to why it was a mess, but I kind of got what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, they didn't do it, but you fast forward a few years, and apparently the answer was Mr. James Gunn. Man behind Guardians of the Galaxy, and now officially a dude who seems to completely understand how you take that feeling you get from reading a comic book and just plaster it onto the big screen. Because I tell you, The Suicide Squad is part stupid, part ridiculous, part over the top, and full on. One of the most violent movies you are going to see this year. I don't know who bribed the UK's rating board to get it down to a 15, but man, it is no 15. I saw a man's head get ripped off thanks to a bullet, and then I watched the blood roll down his face, and then a bird ate his brains. Like, if I had a 15-year-old with me, I would have half expected to turn to them and just see their innocent world dying. I suppose you've got to grow up sometime. And yeah, look, while doing this could have been a negative, it's actually not at all, because instead, making it as gory as possible somehow makes it far less horrific than it would have been otherwise, and it also takes the entire group of main characters and puts them in scenarios that, yeah, they'd probably be in. I mean, after all, Bloodsport, played brilliantly by Idris Elba, by the way, is a self-diagnosed, awful human being with zero good in him. Therefore, if he can rip somebody's arms off, he will. Then I'll laugh about it, but he actually won't laugh because he's struggling with the world. But the balance is just spot on. And that's the same for the entire cast too. Margot Robbie is now basically just Harley Quinn. And while she does get lost in the shuffle a little bit, as we try to reintroduce and reinvigorate different characters, her performance rocks. And John Cena kind of arrives as an actor in this film. Not that it's really that surprising, because he has taken his WWE persona, which is right here, that he's had for the last 15 years, and put the ultimate spin on it by playing Peacemaker. I mean, his intentions are good, but his decisions are insane. Almost like what he would have done in the ring had little kids not been fighting life-threatening diseases and put all their hope and faith and support in John Cena. Really, when you break it right down, he is a very good dude. And you can keep reading them off as well. Like Daniela Melchior's Ratcatcher 2 brings some heart to proceedings and is awesome at doing it without things getting too smulchy. Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag walks that tightrope and that tight line between being soldier guy and also a human you'd want to be friends with. And Viola Davis as Amanda Walker, who is meant to be the good guy at first, is probably the most flubbed up of the bunch. And then you get to Sylvester Stallone as King Shark, and somebody better give him an Oscar. All he basically does is go friend arm for 2 hours, but it is inspired. Why hasn't he got an award? The real highlight, though, is just how easy it is to watch. I mean, it takes a massive risk in the first 5 minutes by killing off half the actors that have been heavily featured in the build-up to release. Again, how they die will make you throw up in your mouth a little bit, but straight away, you're not sure exactly how this is going to go. It's not your typical Hollywood movie straight off the bat, so even an hour in, you're constantly being reminded that people can die and people can be killed, and they are. And one death featuring Harley Quinn and a certain new lover is so unexpected, I laughed out loud in the cinema. And that makes me a weird guy. You should not be laughing at this stuff, but I think it's the same kind of reaction you got when you go to a funeral. You just don't know what to do. So ultimately, Gunn has decided that comics are stupid, and I mean that in a positive way, so why on earth would you take any of this shib seriously? So we don't. I mean, the main villain is a giant starfish that looks like a toy I used to play with when I was a child. And there's also a lot of dialogue dedicated to a guy called Milton. This is happening around yet even more individuals being murdered too, and yet even with this roller coaster effect, the Suicide Squad still makes you react to certain deaths because it comes with such a surprise. And while we are of course teetering on some spoilers here, at least some of the characters already mentioned don't make it to the end of the movie, and if you're a stupid idiot like me, you won't see it coming. And I know, you're better than me and you figured it out because you're so smart. Good for you. Have a cookie. But I was much happier that I didn't. I mean, it takes one specific personality in particular and makes them far more interesting than they were, and it makes sense, that red trinket. We're not just turning people because it's fun to turn people. This isn't early 2000s WCW. The best way to describe it is that the squad don't play well with others, so they spend a good chunk of time not getting on. The fact it's genuinely funny helps though, because if it was just them arguing constantly for real, you would wind up hating them all. And really, you should hate them all because they are not good people. But the odd quip or unexpected line just ensures you're totally on their side. I mean, it is a little bit like watching a documentary on a serial killer and siding with the psycho. If that does happen to you, go and see a doctor, because that's really unhealthy behavior. The Suicide Squad is also incredibly surreal, with the scenery often being used to link scenes together, even though it makes no sense at all, and there is a real evil spin to the whole thing. I think we've all had enough goody two-shoe comic books film to last a lifetime, so to get one which is the utter opposite and completely aimed at adults, well, it's refreshing. And no, it's not for everyone, and those not prepared may even walk out going, well, that was disgusting, it was so disgusting, I saw blood all over a man's head. But all of that has been handled as intended. If you get it, you will definitely get it. One of the best ways I've seen it described is the world around the Suicide Squad is sincere, but what they do and how they act is not. John Cena is just stood there in his underpants at one point. How can you go from that to the end of his arc in this? Well, it's just all very well done. It also shows that we are expanding what we can do with the genre. It's one of those sentences, and I'm all for that. I mean, take something like Thor Ragnarok, which essentially paints that guy as a moron who stumbles his way into success. You'd never be able to do that without these universes that have been created, and Gunn knows that too. I mean, Justice League was everything this film was not, and while the Snyder Cut was better, it lacks the rewatchability and fun this has. And I love Batman. He is my daily inspiration, and I want to give him a hug, but it's just not that enjoyable to watch, whereas the Suicide Squad is. Better than all of that, though, is that it left me wanting more, especially for Idris Elba. I mean, he has found something with his take on Bloodsport, and while the door is left slightly ajar for whatever we did do with him going forward to be more heroic, I just think we need to figure out a way to slam that door and throw it in the toilet and then flush the chain. I've got that with Captain America, Superman, Spider-Man. Give me assholes that are forced to do good any day of the week. Kinda how I feel when I'm training legs. I know that it has to be done, but like a child, I don't wanna. So very good is my summary. Really well put together, the cast rocks, and it's never boring despite being 132 minutes long. In fact, it doesn't feel like that at all. So yeah, it is top stuff. Now please do leave a comment below and let me know, should I be reviewing more movies like this? I mean, I wouldn't make it for everything, just ones I feel particularly passionate about. And if you say no, I won't do it again, like the video, share the video and subscribe, click the bell, ding ding, so you know when other videos are going live. There is another video on the screen, please do give it a click. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, so you can come tell me I'm wrong at SimonMiller316. Go into the description below and get Greg Doucette's Power 13 cookbook. My recipes are in it. Use code Simon15 for 15% off. Simon.bigcartel.com for merchandise, patreon.com/Simon316 for Patreon. Obviously that makes sense. Otherwise, you take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.